for sure.
Well, all those stories that he would tell me, and you, growing up, it occurred to me, he never got a chance to tell a lot of them to my kids. I've passed some of them down, so they've heard some of it from me, but,
Well, there's a lot of them.
I didn't live it, and, I didn't, you guys told me, I was probably 7 or 8 when you guys started talking about, the UFO you guys saw.
Yeah,
and so, a 7 or 8-year-old hearing it versus being,
Yeah, an adult makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just a little story. So I'll tell you the story.
Tell the story.
All right, it was back, and I don't remember. I wasn't about 15, something like that.
So that'd make it.
Well, I'm almost 70 now, so 19.
Well, you were born in 53?
Yeah, about
68,
69.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. And me and your dad and old Danny Daugherty. And he had a 58 Chevy station wagon. And we went out to this one pit, I can't remember. It was called Green's Pit. It was a pit that when you pulled in, you faced the south. And the pit run east and west.
Where was it at in relation to?
Just about a mile, I think it's a mile or 2, a mile west of Columbus, then back north either 2 or 3 miles, then back to the west again, just about a quarter or a half, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I know the area.
Right in there. I'd have to drive around there now to find it, but anyway, back then, it was kind of a nice spot to camp and just go out and hang out and party or whatever. But I think, if I remember right, we probably had a 6-pack of beer. That's when everybody was popular. And I know it wasn't any more than that. But sit out there, and of course, Danny was old enough, Dave was up older than me.
Who was driving?
Danny Daugherty, driving a 58 Chevy station wagon. And I'm sitting in the back seat and stuff, and it just getting dark, just dusky. And we were just stargazing.
So you were 15, Dad 17.
About 17, something like that.
How old's Danny?
He's probably 18.
Okay.
He was older than both of us. About a year older than Dave. And we're just looking around the stars and stuff. Well, back then you could see satellites. You watch satellites across the sky and stuff. It's common to see a satellite going across the sky. Well, we were looking, and we was looking off to the northeast. And it looked like a satellite coming, and we watched it and we talked about it, and here comes satellites, it was going like that. But pretty soon it was like the light, it just went out. And then you seen like a black dot in the sky. And it's kind of like at night,
There's a spot that was darker than the rest.
Darker than night,
right.
It's dark. You could see, you didn't know what it was, but you could see it. It's like a bush. At night, you see a bush in the distance. You don't know what it is, but you can tell there's something there.
Yeah.
That's the way it was in the sky. Then all of a sudden, it was just gone. I mean, just poof, nothing. So, what the heck, we didn't think much of it. Well, it wasn't just within seconds later. Across the pit, we were facing south, and the pit ran east and west, and on the far side, south side of the pit, was a bunch of trees, like a big old hedgerow and stuff. Well, all of a sudden, this light would come shining from the far side back through the trees.
How far away is that?
Oh, not more than 150, 200 yards, maybe. A couple hundred yards.
Yeah.
Like that, it wasn't that far away, but it was shining through the trees, and I mean, it was bright. And it was kind of going across the trees in a motion,
Dad described it as being the brightest light he ever saw.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could, it was from the top to the bottom.
He said you could see bugs on
Well,
leaves.
From where we was at then, it looked like somebody with a big spotlight, going across, but it was huge. And it was moving, going from if we was facing south, it was going from our left to right. And it was going across, and then pretty soon here it'd come again. And we thought it was coon hunters or something, but it was odd because it was so big and stuff. And we thought, what the heck? And I don't think I'd even drink a beer. And I don't think either one of the guys there would drink a beer. Maybe.
Well,
maybe. Nobody was intoxicated or anything.
At that point in your life, a 6-pack for each of you wouldn't have been a big deal.
Oh, no. I mean, well, it was between us, not a piece, but that was between everybody. And it never got started. to speak of that I remember. So we decided to go, what the heck? So we pulled out of there and pulled out to the north. Then we went just to the corner east, which is, oh, I don't know, 200 or 300 yards, less than a quarter mile or something to the east. And then we turned south so we could get along, find out, and then that would put whatever it was on our right or the west side. We was going south. So we got down there, and right out in the middle of this field, I mean, there was a huge field, bare field and stuff, was a big round, what the only thing you could say was a saucer. And it was setting out in this field, and there was a huge spotlight that was just going across the trees, and it'd go across the north, and it went around to the west, like that, and it'd come around, and you see it coming around, but it wouldn't shine on us. Then it'd go, boop, and it was on again, and then like that. Well, David got out of the car. Danny got out of the driver's side. He was looking over the top of the car. Dave opened the car door, and he was standing up behind the car door. And like I said, Danny looking over. I was in the back seat, sitting there looking out the side window to the west, like that. And that light just kept going. There wasn't no sound or nothing, just this light, and it kept going, and it'd go around. I don't know how many times it went around, but it never did shine on us that we know of, and we didn't see it anyway. But like your dad, like Dave said, it was so bright. It was, you could see every twig on the tree. I mean, from top to bottom.
That's what he.
It was just white, pure bright. I mean, just as plain as day. It wasn't shaded here or there. It was,
So how far away are you from the saucer, you think?
I'm gonna guess. Let's see, it's 200. I'm looking across the street now.
That's about 200 yards, that garage over there.
About that far. About from here to that house.
Not very.
No. It's plenty big. I mean,
How big was this saucer?
from that distance, I would guess it was probably at least 60, 80 feet across.
How high?
I'm guessing 20 feet, maybe 20 feet or so.
So
And
more wide than high.
Oh yeah, it was more round than high. And then it had little lights, around the side of it, and this big spotlight. And you see these little lights, and it just kept moving. Well, pretty soon the light went out, and these little lights became a blur, like it was spinning or something. And then it just lifted up. It started going up, and that's when I told Dave and them. I said, "Let's get the hell out of here." And Dave was going, "Wait," and it went up. And I'm guessing from where we was at, it had to go up at least maybe 100 feet, like that in the distance, up 100 feet like this, and it was up like this, and I was scared. I was petrified. And they're standing there just watching this thing, and then it started and it went back down. And it went back down, it set down, the light came on again, and it just started doing that rotation again, that light. But it never did shine on us. And when we drove off, it was still there. And I was scared crapless. I mean, it scared snot out of me. And we went straight from there to Ruth's house. My sister Ruth, your Aunt Ruth, went straight to her house.
Out there by the country club?
No, they lived on South Florida Street in Columbus.
Oh.
Went straight to their house. Well, they were in bed, and we woke her up, got her up. So then we didn't think about this till later, but it was just dark, summertime, and
So 8 or 9 o'clock at night.
it's maybe something like that. But when we got there, Ruth, it was like, I almost guessed 10 or 11 o'clock. And I know we weren't out there no 2 or 3 hours. We couldn't have been. I mean, we don't see. It was like a time lapse or something, because Ruth and them didn't go to bed that early. They didn't go to bed. And you can talk to her to this day, and she'll tell you how blown. I mean, we was wired. I mean, really wired.
So that kind of reminds me of when Furlough and I were out messing around, and we saw some weird stuff. I barged into your place.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I mean, sitting here now, that was stupid. I should have never done that. But I was so shook up. It never occurred to me. Your house was the closest thing to us, and I wanted somebody. Honestly, I wanted you to protect me.
Yeah.
Because what I saw, it bothered me so much, and you were annoyed because you were in bed. It was after midnight, and you're like, "What are you doing?" But I didn't care. I just wanted to be close to you, and away from it.
Well,
So were you Was it like, I mean, because you went to your older sister's house, was it for the same reason?
Yeah, I mean, we had to tell somebody. I mean, we had to, and we knew. I don't remember ever going to a bunch of people and say, "Hey, guess what we saw? Guess what we saw?" 'Cause we knew nobody would believe us. You know, nobody's going to believe it.
That's pretty
Yes,
far out there.
Well, sure, yeah, it is. It's way out there.
And-
And if somebody had come to me and told me that, I wouldn't have believed it. I wouldn't have. I'd said, "Yeah, right. You know, you're drunk or something." You know, I wouldn't have believed it. But I know what I saw. There's no doubt in my mind. You know, Lord knows I'm not lying. Lord knows what I saw, and stuff. I know what I saw.
Dad,
I don't know what it was. But I know what I
Dad's
saw.
story never changed.
No, I know mine didn't either.
Dad's story,
Nice.
because I remember asking you after he, at some point down through the time, well, tell me about that. And, you know, Dad was more understated in how in everything really. When he talked about stuff he didn't get, but he would say, well, the light was so bright you could see all the bark, all the leaves, every little thing. He said it was not a normal light.
No, it wasn't.
So he would say stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he would never go into
Detail.
Or that he was scared.
Yeah. Well, I know they were standing there, and more than likely, I look back now, they was probably petrified, couldn't move, and stuff.
So that's the part of the flavor, you know. On Dad. Difference between your storytelling and Dad's is Dad would minimize emotions.
Oh yeah. I know me. Oh yeah.
Your side of it is
I get animated. You bet.
So,
I know.
but Dad's story always matched with yours, and I never really met Danny.
Mm-mm. Well, I talked to Danny years later, and he goes, I think it was when we was selling fireworks. He come up there, and I said, "Do you remember when we saw that thing?" He goes, "Well, we saw something." He didn't elaborate on it, and I've never had the chance to sit down with him and really sit down and talk about it. And one of these days, I planned on it, but I don't know if it'll ever happen. But he just said, "Well, we saw something," like that. So he knows we saw something.
I don't know that I ever asked you and Dad at the same time either to tell that story when we were kids. It was always one or the other.
Yeah.
Because you guys were rarely in the same room when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Except like holidays.
Yeah.
But now looking back on it,
Yeah,
I never noticed.
He was always